Introduce myself. My name is Emma Garcia. I am the Director of People and Culture at Z Prime, and I'm so happy to be talking to Lauren Youngdahl Snyder, who's the Vice President of Customer Experience at Consumers Energy. And Lauren's responsible for business customer operations, for economic development strategy, as well as innovation of energy waste reduction and renewable energy programs that support Consumer Energy's clean energy plan for the state of Michigan. Lauren also serves, she's a busy woman. She also serves on the Women's Advisory Group, which is just one of many inclusion resource groups at Consumers Energy. And she holds a seat on the Michigan Women Forward Board. Did I miss anything that you want to add, Lauren?
You got it.
Okay, great. Well, we're here today to speak about the parental leave policy, which is one of the kind of your newest efforts that you helped shape this policy. I'm excited to learn about what drove this in the first place. And if you want to give us just like a brief summary of what the parental leave policy is, we can go ahead and start there.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm so happy to be here talking about a topic that I'm pretty passionate about. So our policy historically has always been the standard, the status quo. So if you are a mother who has a baby, you'll get 6 weeks off paid or 8 weeks off, depending on the type of labor. So C-section would get 8 weeks paid. And for fathers, it was in the last few years where we expanded that to include fathers, and it was 2 weeks off of paid leave. So now, effective January 1st of 2021, it will be 6 months paid for birthing parents, and we'll get into that when we talk about kind of broadening the definition, and 4 months paid for non-birthing parents. So this puts us top amongst all utilities and in the top of most Fortune 500 companies.
That is incredibly progressive, and I applaud your efforts here in making that change. So you already kind of spoke to some of the stark differences between the previous policy and this new policy. That's amazing. I'm curious, what role did a global health pandemic and a national social justice movement play in the decision to move forward with shaping this new policy?
I think it put the exclamation point on it. So I'll give you a little story about how this kind of came to be. So we have a women's advisory resource group, which I get the privilege of being the executive sponsor for. And there was a team of just rock stars who came together because this was kind of a resounding drumbeat that we were hearing from our predominantly female coworkers, but coworkers of like, gosh, that feels not enough. That's not enough time. And I personally, I have 3 children, 7, 5, and 1.5. And when I came back from my last parental leave or maternity leave, I just thought to myself, okay, we got to do something different. It's just not enough time. I mean, really. And what I did is, I had C-sections with all 3. So I had the 8 weeks paid, and then I would tack on unpaid leave, and then I'd tack on vacation. And so the most amount of time I was off was 3 months. And it was always just like this big dilemma of, I've got this 3-month-old, oh my gosh, daycare, oh my gosh, how do I leave you? I'm breastfeeding. Coming back and working and breastfeeding is, as anyone who's done it, not easy. It's very easy to be like, oh, giving this up. It's hard to tell your boss or your coworkers like, hey, I'm going to be late for this meeting because I need to go pump, right? Mm-hmm. It's quickly, you quickly drop that. I quickly dropped that. And we know that breastfeeding, for those who choose to do it, tends to be better nutritional value than anything else. And so you're kind of foregoing. Anyways, you have all these dilemmas. And by the way, you have a lot of, I personally experienced postpartum issues that are legitimately real and legitimately hard. And so you think about that and you come back into the workplace and it's just really hard. And so I personally, when my third child was born, I kind of made my own stand, if you will, and said, okay, I have to, like, working with my coworkers in the women's advisory panel, like, we're going to do something different. We're going to take a stand for this, because I know that if others like me feel the same way, that we have to do something different. And so I think that the social changes happening in 2020 and the global pandemic put an extra sensitivity to how we continue to support our coworkers when we think about inclusion and diversity of thought and equity and managing, like, how they care for themselves and how they are during this pandemic. And so, I commend our senior leadership team. Patty Poppy leads our company, and she and the senior officers are pretty progressive. I mean, if you think about the external claims the stakes in the ground that we've made around clean energy, we were one of the first utilities to say we're going to be net zero by 2040. Utilities don't say that. Utilities don't do that. We're going to retire our entire coal fleet, and so the same is true for internal stances. I think it was like your reaction, like, whoa, that's pretty progressive. And I think that the opportunity to come with a business case, which the team did, it was indisputable. We had one senior officer say, I've never seen a better business case. They did the due diligence. They looked at how the best of the best do it. They looked across the nation. They looked at other countries, like what could good really look like for us, and made the case. And I think it demonstrates caring for our coworkers, but I also think too, those who are not, well, the other piece is it's in how you form your family might be different, right? In the previous way we were doing it, adoption really wasn't factored in, and foster care wasn't. And now it is. I have a coworker on my team who is a foster care parent, and she, bless her heart, I can't even say it, like, bless her heart for doing that. And then when she's like, well, I can only take off like 2 weeks, and she had these newborns, I'm like, what? I've had a newborn. 2 weeks is not sufficient. And so, being super inclusive of other ways that families build their families is also, I think, a key part of us taking a stand for this. So
that's brilliant.
I covered a lot there, but I'll pause.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It was all such important information to share, and kind of being careful and conscientious of what defines a family, that it's broader than this, like, kind of standardized view that we've normalized, but we're expanding that definition so that it is more inclusive. That's brilliant. And I also want to just kind of acknowledge that I'm a mom. I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. They're 14 months apart.
Oh my God.
And I'm just now, like, crawling out of the tunnel. So, but yeah, pumping sucks. I'm not a fan. And there's shame around not breastfeeding. Totally. Unfortunately, right? So then you're dealing with that as well. And then also there's shame around, or stigma around, postpartum depression. These are two things that people don't want to talk about. And it's really encouraging to know that at Consumers Energy, you have this women's advisory support group so that they have that support, and that you are able to open up and receive acknowledgement and support on these issues that are stigmatized.
Totally. And one of the things that we're hearing now from folks is 6 months. Like, will people forget about me if I take 6 months off?
Yeah.
No. And this is something that Patty Poppy said that really struck a chord with me, is you are, like, we need you more than you need us. Like, the value and the contributions and what you bring to this company are more important than what we bring to you. And so I think that's something that everyone needs to take to heart, is you need to do what you need to do. And what's cool, I think, about this, the way that we've structured it, is you don't have to take 6 months. You don't have to take 4 months. You can take whatever you want to take, but just know that you've got the opportunity to use that time within that year span. So I also think that's a nice flexibility component that we've not had before.
Yeah, and that people first philosophy is really, I think, pivotal in helping shape these policies. Um, and I'm also, so I was reading, and you've probably read these studies that since COVID, there's about 1 in 4 women in the workplace that are deciding to either um, downshift their careers or completely leave the workforce. And this is due to the pressures that have been created because of COVID-19. And so for mothers and fathers, but specifically when I'm thinking about women, because if we've got women leaving the workforce, then we're backtracking, and we don't want to go there. So it's huge.
It's so hard too, because I think about, I deal with this. My oldest is a second grader, and I'm grateful that we're back full time in person. But a lot of people that I work with are not, and so they're trying to juggle, schooling for their children with working, the demands of living life. And so I think also one of the things that we're trying to really to reinforce during this time is like family is first.
Mhm.
Got to tell us, when you're having something that's a dilemma or an issue or anything, so that we can help where we can. And I think that's true around this policy. This has been something that's been underlying that many have wondered, like, gosh, why is it that other companies can do this, or well, we know why other countries can, tax and all of that is structured differently, but like, why can't we do that? And I think this also is a really good example of where there's a will, there's a way. And so,
Mhm.
if you see something that you think should be different, you got to say it. Similar to like if I'm struggling with home, keeping my kids home during virtual schooling, and you need adjustments in your work day, you got to say something. And so, I think it's a really good example of being really passionate, taking a stand, getting the data. Like we had the data that made the case. So it wasn't just a feel good, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Everyone will like it better. It was literally backed up with data to say, like, we really believe this is not only going to be a benefit for, the mothers and fathers who are taking leave, it's also a benefit for those who could step into those roles. So I have a perfect example of this. I have a woman on my team who literally just had a baby. What day is it? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago now. And I'm so excited for her because she gets to take part of this new policy. What we've done too is we've looked at it 1 year retroactively. Or you're having a baby right now, it applies to you, which is, I think, really cool. But what's great is there is a woman now that's going to take her spot on my team from a development standpoint, and she gets to be in that role for 6 months. And it's so cool because she gets that exposure, that experience, that kind of skill set development. And then in her place, we have a guy on my team who's taken her role. So there's like this two-pronged development thing happening while, my colleague is on leave. Like it's like a beautiful thing, and there's like a lot of goodness from this. So it gives people the opportunity to, from a development standpoint, I think, be in positions that they wouldn't otherwise be in.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and kind of a nice after effect or side effect from it. I want to acknowledge and not overlook that because you mentioned, why are other companies doing it? Why can't we do it? There aren't that many other companies doing it,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, you guys, Consumers Energy is a front runner. You guys are taking a leadership role in making this. I think the pressure is going to build for other companies in other utilities to step up, and you're setting a really good example.
I hope so. I hope others take notice and they follow suit. I think it's the right thing to do for mothers and fathers, and it's the right thing to do for families. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there's mention that some of the language was changed around the policy, and I was wondering if you could speak to that. Like, why was that decision made?
Yeah, definitely. And so when we say birthing parent, well, we used to say maternity and paternity. And so when you say paternity, that really makes you think of dads, right? Like, but when we say non-birthing, it's inclusive of moms and dads who might not be the birthing parents. And when we say birthing, it's literally, the mother. But I think it also is, we're trying to say adoption, foster care, mothers, fathers. Like it's a much more broader, inclusive way of talking about parental leave than we had done before. And I think, our company has really taken a stand around DE&I. Clearly, this is one example. There are other examples as well, and other policy changes that are being looked at right now. But language is really important. And I think the way that you write these policies and the way that you talk about these policies really sets the tone to show that we really mean it. Like we really mean that this is an inclusive way of talking about something that it was never meant to be not inclusive, but the way you talk about it is important and it sends signals to people.
That, yeah, you're absolutely right. Language matters. What we say and how we say it absolutely matters. Kudos to you guys for making those necessary changes in the language on the policy. I've got one more question, I guess a couple more questions actually, sorry. I wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit and see what role gender and race played in shaping the policy. So we've talked about gender, but with some of the effects that we've seen COVID-19 having on Black and Latino communities, it's that they're being disproportionately affected. And I'm wondering if any of that, did that play into the wording or the design of this policy?
I think that was, a part of the thinking, regardless of COVID, quite frankly, like how this applies to any race, gender, you name it, how it can be the most inclusive policy that it can be. And so I think this COVID, again, just put a nice exclamation point on why this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. And so it's the right thing to do, obviously, for the employee. Absolutely, it's the right thing to do. And there's benefits that stand in place for the employee. But I'm wondering, how does it benefit the employer?
Yeah, really good question. I think, as we think about retention of talent, I think that that's a key piece of this. I think of attracting new talent. If we can offer something like this, it might, I hopefully make women and men think twice about the kind of company and the kind of culture that we have. I think the policy itself is tremendous, but I think it also signals the way that we think about our people and care for our people. And so it's not just this policy, it's other policies that we have. It's the other, the type of environment that we have and are working to create for our coworkers. I think those are the big pieces. I also think from a development standpoint, I mentioned it earlier that it's an opportunity for those who are, not taking the leave to have experience and exposure to doing different things. And I think that is a really great silver lining of this as well, is it provides development for people that they wouldn't normally get. Like I think about the woman who is taking my team member's role, like that. I don't know another scenario where you get a 6-month assignment on that team, exposed to, those conversations, those, decisions, those kinds of things. I mean, it's cool. So
Yeah.
but I really do hope that it is, like I said, it's a cool thing for those having babies, and we need more babies in this world. But I also think it's a signal of how we treat and care for and think about the importance of our people at Consumers Energy.
Thank you, Lauren, for that. And so you guys have made the policy public, but I'm wondering, would Consumers Energy ever consider kind of helping other companies, utilities specifically, shape their own policy? You spoke a lot about the importance of the data that was gathered to build the case. Like, would y'all consider maybe sharing a template or an open source doc that would help kind of pave the way for other companies that are interested in this?
Absolutely. If others listening, if this has piqued your interest, I think that we would be more than happy to have a conversation and share kind of what we learned in our best practices. Because I hope this creates a domino effect for other utilities and other companies to follow suit. We can maybe start a parental leave revolution.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. That's the theme for our call, parental leave revolution. It's coming.
Fine. Get ready.